Everyone, welcome to my channel. I am H. Cooper Crafty Book Hyla. In this video, I am doing a single, a double, and a triple military braid. And I am doubling the ribbons, so this is going to be a better quality braid. If you're new to making these braids, you may want to go back and watch a simpler video where I'm only using one ribbon and not doubled the ribbons. So we're going to start out with the single, then the double, and then the triple. And I like working off the spools for military braids because you can just keep braiding until you get the exact length you want and then you can quit. I do have measurements and I will try to remember to put those in the description. I do have a playlist of military braids, so all sorts of military braids will be in there. So you want to make a loop just big enough to fit another loop in it. And what I'm doing here is I'm just going to clip that and then I'm going to pull out my blue ribbon. And there must have been something on the end of that I needed to cut off. It may have been a brand new roll because I always cut off the outer roll of a brand new roll when I open it up because it's always dirty and messed up. So you want to put, if you're going to double your ribbons, you want to put them back to back where the shiny side is out on both sides. That way when you make the military braid, you've got shiny sides of ribbon showing everywhere on the braid. So I made a loop on the left side, and then on the right side I've got those ribbons just coming out towards the right. And I'm just making sure that loop is big enough and not too big. See, I'm making it a little bit smaller before I put a staple in. And then I'm going to staple all 4 of those ribbons. And that's how you want to start out right there. I used to make 2 loops and staple each loop and then start braiding like that. But Connie at the Southern Cottage taught me this trick and I like it better, so I'm doing that now. So you just want to form a loop and push inside that loop that you made first, and then you move over to the black ribbons and you make a loop there. Now it's important that you make the loops the same direction. Watch which direction I formed the loop with the ribbons. I'm going up like that, kind of forward. I have actually done military braids doing loops the other directions, and I have videos for those, but this is for the normal single military braid. You want to fold those loops exactly like I'm doing. Just keep going back and forth. It's one of the simplest braids to make. You just form a loop and go inside the other loop, pull that snug, form a loop with that ribbon, go inside the black ribbon, then take the black, make a loop, go inside the blue ribbon, and you always want to pull and make that snug. The tighter you make that, it's going to make the braid will end up kind of curving a little bit. So you don't want to make them like overly tight, but you also don't want them real loose either. So I like to say snug, but not tight. Now I'm going to fast forward this because it is a very simple back and forth movement. This should be one of the first braids you learn how to make when you start making homecoming mums. It really should. It's one of the easiest. I think it's probably one of the first ones that I learned. This one, and then maybe the spirit chain or something. But I want to say this was the first braid I had on my mums that first season. And you can find videos for military braids and different types of ribbons. You can make this out of grosgrain, soft satins, just about any kind of ribbon. And they're going to look nice and they're going to look pretty. Again, if you want to make sure that your braid has the shiny ribbon from the acetate or the luster showing everywhere, then you need to double the ribbons like I did. And just in case you didn't get it from the angle, I'm going to hold it in front of the camera. And see, it's not quite clear. It's focusing in on the background instead of the braid on it for some reason. Sorry about that. But at the angle I'm at, I can't see what my camera is doing. There, I think it finally focused in on my braid. But it's a very, very simple. When you get into the double and triple, it gets more complicated just because there's so many ribbons. So I want you to learn how to make this one first and learn how to make it good. And you can also layer ribbons, different size ribbons. I've got videos for that. There's lots of fun things you can do with a military braid. There's so many different versions of a military braid out there now. But start with the single, the classic military braid, and then move on. So that's why I wanted to do one with all three. I do have other tutorials of all of these braids, but I wanted to have a video that had all three of them on there, the single, double, and triple. You see I'm pulling it snug, but I'm not trying to make it overly tight either. I tend to go a little bit on the tighter side on my military braids, and they do kind of curve a little bit, but I just like the looks of them when they're nice and snug. And I'm using a laptop stand with a simple dowel rod to put ribbons through, and this is really nice for whatever ribbons I'm working with. And so they roll, and it just works really, really well. So I just kind of wanted to show that. I've shown that before. That a laptop stand similar to that is in my Amazon store if you're curious and want to get you one. They actually don't make mine anymore, so that I don't have that particular one anymore. So when you get to the length you want, just cut off your ribbons like I showed. I place one in whatever loop is left, and then I just fold it up like that. And then give it a staple right there, and you're done. Don't forget to staple it when you're done, because it will come unraveled, and you don't want to do all that work and then have it come unraveled. There it is. And I made a 36-inch one. Again, I do have some measurements, and I'll try to put those in the description, but I don't know if I have all measurements, because like I said, I really, really prefer to work off the spool when I'm doing military braids, and it's really hard to get measurements for you if I'm working off the spool, especially with a single. Okay, I just measured out 4 yards of ribbon, and then I creased it. So the shiny side is out on both sides, and now I'm going to match this up. I'm just going to go like this. So I have 4 yards, but it's actually 2 ribbons at 4 yards. I just creased it, so that's where I'm going to start with that crease. Did the same with the red. 4 sets of 2 ribbons, all 9/16 inch. I got 2 that are red, 1 that's navy, 1 that's white. So these are actually 2 ribbons. So you could butt up 2 different colors back to back if you wanted to. You could pre-cut and back them up, but why not measure it, crease it, and then get the other side. So they are shiny side out. It's a whole lot of ribbons. I've got them in this box to kind of keep them contained. I got that tip from TJ. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take 1 red and 1 navy. I guess I should say the only navy. I'm going to make a loop with the red, and I'm going to put that navy inside the loop. I'm going to make sure the loop is big enough to get that inside there. It can actually be a little bit smaller. Perfect. Now I'm just going to put a staple in there. Alright, so you've got 1 ribbon coming down and 1 ribbon going to the right. The one coming down has the loop. Now I'm going to take the other red one and the white one. I'm going to do the same thing except I'm going to make the loop with the white this time. And all I have to do is match that up and make sure they're the same size. Take the red one, put that one on the inside. Make sure, yes, just barely. Give that one a staple. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay them on top of each other like this. Now, these two ribbons are going to be side by side, and these two, or I should say four, if you're doubling them up like I did, these two will be side by side. The loops will be side by side, but you see there's space in between there. So what I'm going to do is give that a staple right there to hold all four of those together. This is going to be the front side, and this is going to be the back side. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the ribbon that is closest to the center. This is going to be the center of the braid right here, of course. So these are my two inner ribbons. I'm going to take the innermost one on the right, fold it up, which is going to make a loop, and then I'm going to put it on this loop right here. Put it inside there. Now you can't tighten that because it's stapled. That's why you want to make that as small as possible. See, it's really too big. It's not going to be a big deal, but that kind of drives me nuts. So now I'm going to take the second one and put that one in this one. Hang it up. Oops, I pulled them everywhere. Okay, again, this one, make a loop inside of this one. This one inside of this one. Again, we're going to start with the centermost one, the one that's closest to the center of the braid, and put it in this loop, the outer one. And now we can tighten that up. Now we're going to take this outer one and put it in this loop, which is the one that it's connected to. It's the one it's stapled to. We're going to braid in and out of the ribbons that it's stapled to. But what's happening is when you fold these centermost ribbons up, it connects them through here, braids them right in the middle, and it's going to make a nice little point. You do have to watch out, especially when you double them. They don't want to stay tight, and they don't want to stay together. So again, we're going to start with this one, which is closest to the center of the braid. And put it in that red one. Pull it. Try to pull it snug. If you have problems with them coming apart, just get like some little alligator clips and slide it inside there. Don't crease the ribbons, but it will hold it in place, and that'll help you out. Now again, I'm starting with this one because it's closest to the middle. Now this one. Now staying with that one because it's closest to the center. See, it's making that nice little point right there in the center. That's why you've got to fold. You got to work with those middle ones first, or the ones not middle, the ones closest to the middle of the braid. Now I started out with 4 yards of each ribbon. So that means this is 8 yards. This is 8 yards. This is 8 yards. And this is 8 yards. Because I doubled them. Look how nice that looks. You see how it's pointed up in the middle. That's what you want. That's what's connecting your 2 military braids together and making it a double. Now I'm gonna finish making this and I will show you how I connect it at the end, and we'll see how long of a braid that I got out of it. Okay. I've gotten to a stopping point because these ribbons ran out sooner than those, and we were just talking about this on the triple I did, and not knowing which 2 ribbons came up short. Well, it turns out it's the white and the navy. So it's the ribbons that form the center that are running out before the other ones. So you may want to add an extra yard to each ribbon that forms the center. So an extra yard here, an extra yard here, or maybe even 2 yards. Well, it probably depends on the length you're going. So those ribbons that are going to form that center, make those longer. And I'm going to try to remember that as well. So let's see what 4 yards of ribbon got us for a braid. About 27 inches. So 27 inches, 4 yards. Look how pretty that is. And there's the back side. Now, finish this off. Very, very simple. I'm going to tighten everything. I'm just going to push those up in there. I can't make any more loops because that one's too short. I'm going to push that all the way up through there. Pull those down. Again, I'm going to make all of these nice and snug. Get it where I want it. And then I'm just going to give all of those a staple right there. And the same thing here. I'm going to pull that, flip that up. So I just flip that over. I'm going to give that whole thing a staple. So now it will not come undone. And that's where I will attach it to a backer. If I use this on a mom, I will attach it here, but you can also, you know, loop these. Now, it's going to be harder with these big ones, but you can loop them like this on them. Could also form it into a circle, form it into a fun little design like this, and leave one of the ribbons to hang it with, or 2 of them. Have it hanging down like this if it's on a huge mug. Whatever you want to do. I'm just going to leave those ribbons on there for now. Trim those off if you're going to attach that to a backer. That is a double military braid. And I hope that that tutorial was helpful. And look how clean the back is. Look how good that looks. Stapling them together when you start, like I showed, is the best way, because you're not trying to hold all the ribbons together while you're trying to braid it. They're already held together by that staple, by that, wherever that center staple was. All right, now for the triple military. Again, I'm going to be doubling those ribbons. So when you make a triple, you need 6 ribbons, but if you double the ribbons, you're going to end up with 12 ribbons. So just think about that, and then all the links that you're going to be working with. So it is a lot of ribbon. It is a lot to do, to work with, and it can be a little overwhelming. So just keep that in mind if you double the ribbons. But of course, you're going to get a better braid if you double the ribbons. You're going to get the shiny side out on the entire military braid, because if you make a military braid without doubling the ribbons, then you will have some dull side showing and some shiny side showing. So I'm cutting that at 4 yards. I'm going to show my hand. So I did do something a little different on this one, since I realized, and you put these together just like any of the other military braids, you're just going to have another set. You know, with the single you had 2 sets, on the double you had 4 sets, and on this one you're going to have 6 sets. So you just keep building off that. And yes, you could just keep going and make mega ones, crazy big ones if you wanted to. Now I forgot what I was going to say. So again, double the ribbons. You can do the same colors. You can see I've got the colors all changed up. Now I know what I was talking about. See, right there, 5 yards. I'm just going to tell you on each one. And what I'm doing is I'm cutting where the 2 ribbons that are going to be in the center of the braid, the center of the upside down V, I cut those a yard longer, since I had realized that I'm running out of ribbons, those middle ribbons, before the other ribbons. So I wanted to see if it would make a longer braid. Not that I know the measurements that well, since I haven't made that many of them, but you'll see how much it gives me. And on this one, I'm overlapping a diamond dust with an acetate or luster. It's not quite as wide as the acetate, but it almost, you can just see a little bit of the acetate on each side. So I didn't worry about doubling the acetate. Again, this one's 4 yards, so I'm going to show you on each set, or each doubled ribbons. And I have to do this 6 times. 6, so 12 total ribbons, 6 sets. And you're basically making 3 military braids at once. You're just interweaving them in the center. So to me, the most complicated part of it is just that you're working with so many ribbons and all that length. So it can be very, very difficult when you're talking about that. So make sure you can make a military braid, a single military braid, and then make sure you can make one with doubled ribbons and make one with layered ribbons, and just make sure you've got that military braid down before you try to add different techniques and bigger ones and more ribbons and stuff like that. Just go for the regular military single ribbons until you get it down, and then go from there. Don't try to tackle something like this first. That's just my opinion on that. Now this one I'm doing burgundy and white. We'll see what kind of pattern I come up with. I do have one other tutorial for this braid. See, that one's 5 yards. And with it, it was really for teaching purposes. It was not to make a braid for a mom. What I did, I just used short ribbons. I didn't use very long ribbons, and then I only used single ribbons, and each ribbon was a different color, so you can really tell where I'm folding or braiding each ribbon. So I will put a link to that video on a card. It'll also be in my playlist for military braids. Also in my playlist for 2023 Homecoming Mom tutorials. So either one of those places you can find that. And if you want a tutorial that's a little bit easier to watch, if you're having trouble with this one with all the burgundies and stuff, it's not going to be as easy to follow along. Plus, I'm working with longer ribbons, so it's harder for me to do a tutorial when I'm working with such long ribbons and so many ribbons. They get in the way. It can be really difficult for me as well. So this is the way I'm laying them out, just like I did. You do the double, but you're just going to add one more set. Trying to find the end. See, that's another thing. Look at all that. Imagine if you were going to make it even longer than that. When you make some of these braids, especially long, you are working with a lot of ribbons. It can be crazy. And then one more staple, and this is a must. Stapling them together will save you so much heartache because it will keep them where they're supposed to be, and you won't be fighting keeping them in place while you're trying to braid, because that's how I used to do the double. I didn't even think to staple them. There's a picture from the other tutorial I did. And so here are these. See, it's a little bit darker. The colors kind of blend in together, so it's harder to tell. It's not going to be quite as easy. Plus, it was getting dark, so I didn't have as good a lighting going on. But I will tell you, the key is each set that you staple together in the beginning, you will constantly braid or make loops only into those ribbons. So see that with the diamond dust and burgundy, you will constantly only make loops and fold into loops of that same 2 ribbons. You're not going to fold them or make loops and put them into any of the other ribbons. They are constantly going to go inside, keep braiding on each color. I'm sorry. I feel like I can't explain it. So the white and burgundy is constantly going to braid or make loops into the white and burgundy. The silver and burgundy is only going to braid with the silver and burgundy. The black and burgundy is only going to braid into the black and burgundy. While you're braiding, as long as you go over the top like I'm showing, those middle 2 ribbons that form that upside down V in the center of the braid, the loose ribbons, as you're braiding, you are interweaving those together, and that's what is holding it together. As you're crossing all those ribbons over, you're interweaving the whole thing together, and that's how it comes to be. So you don't have to worry about wondering, okay, which loop do I put it in now? It's constantly going to go into that same color of loop. So unless you're making it all one color or all 2 colors, it may be more difficult to you may make some mistakes then, but it should be easier knowing like that one is always going to go in the silver and burgundy. And you see I go up with the loop to make the loop, forward and up, and then of course always tighten down, make that snug. Now some of them are going to want to come undone. That's one thing that you fight with, and there's just not a whole lot you can do about it. It just happens. Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes they stay snug, but other times they just want to loosen up on you. See, that's one of those center ones I was talking about. And it's going to cross over all those others, so it just forms that unique design in the center of the braid. And like I said, this is the exact same braiding technique as the double. We're just using another set. You're basically just interweaving 3 military braids together. I did not create the double braid, the double military. I don't know who did, but I just wondered one day, I wonder if I can make a triple with the same technique. Surely I can. And I talked about it for a while, and I did it. And it worked, and I talked about it for a while, and I showed shorts and stuff, and it took me a while to finally get the tutorial out. And by the time I got the tutorial out, other people were making them, other mum makers were making them and stuff. So I don't know, somebody else could have come up with the same idea too, because it wasn't far-fetched. If you can make a double, you can make a triple. But as far as I know, when I was talking about it, I was the first person to come up with it, but I don't know. I was probably the first person to share it, or at least share it publicly. But I'm calling it the triple because you got the regular military, which I call a single, and then you have the double, and then this one's triple. You're doing 3 military braids, so it seemed logical to me to call it a triple. I don't know what other people are calling it, but that's what I call it. Oh, something I wanted to tell you is when I started this, I couldn't remember if I needed to put the diamond dust where it was facing up or facing down, and I was too lazy to go back and look at some of my old videos, because I know I show like patterns on some of the braids, like which direction, if you layer it, if you don't layer both sides, which where it's going to show up on the braid. And of course I did it wrong. So if you layer a pretty ribbon like this, you want it to be face down for it to show up on the top of the braid. So you saw mine is on the back, which I thought it looked really cool, so I left it there and I just kept going because I thought it looked cool on the back side, and I wasn't sure how somebody or how I'm going to use it, if I sell it or if I use it myself, if I'm going to twist it or go put it from one end to the mum to the other, or am I going to let it hang straight? I don't know. Or am I going to twist it? Yeah, I probably said that. So I really didn't know what I'm going to do with it. But if I decide to show the back side, I thought the back side was pretty cool. And you could actually see the diamond dust through the center too. I don't know if you can you can't through there, but you could see it shining through there. It looked really cool. But if you layered both sides of that burgundy ribbon, then you would have it on both sides of your braid. So however you want to do it. Just remember, that's going to be one more ribbon you're braiding, or you're working with. One more layer of streamers hanging off there, weighing it down. And then if you have to step away or pause, just put some clips in there so it doesn't come undone. Just like that. Make sure each one of them. And then I still have all those ribbons to work with. So I'm going to skip ahead. So I did just I took it and sat down with it. And, if you're watching TV or something, you can go sit down, and it's a good one to work on while you're doing that. Or if you're sitting up in bed watching TV, whatever, take it with you and braid it then. Because it is a lengthy one. It's not one that really you have to think too hard on, but it can take some time. So here it is. Still not finished, but I went that far and then saved the rest for the next day. I really don't like doing that. I like to finish a braid when I'm working on it, but I had to quit. The reason why I don't like restarting them is because a lot of times I mess up on them, or I forget where I was, and I always end up with some kind of something that's not quite right on it when I do that, and that And I do have two things actually that screw up on it from doing this, and I will show you those, and I'll show you how I fix them too without tossing the braid or redoing it. Okay, you see I ran out of ribbons, and again it was those center ones, so I would have not made near that long a one if I hadn't added that extra yard. So may have needed 2 extra yards for that, just depending on how long, because you see how long that was, and it was those center ones, those 2 center that I ran out first. So I'm just going to finish this up like this. I always like to run the small ribbons through one last loop, and then staple that so it doesn't come undone. Fighting it. I don't know if you can see a mess up down there, and I believe that's where I restarted it, where I had set it aside like I said that night and then picked it back up the next day. I'm pretty sure that's what happened, and I want to say there's one more thing that I missed, and it may be in that same area. I can't remember. Just make sure you get all of these ribbons and loops stapled. And then when you cut off all those excess ribbons, you want to save those. You can use them for loops and, loops for whatever, loop chains and for the backer and stuff like that. But you can also save small pieces. You might, if you make like ring mums or something and you need some little pieces. So those are going to all go in my scrap box, and I'll use those for something else. You probably know I've been making a lot of loops out of my scrap pieces and putting them in containers because my scrap box has been getting so full. And if it gets too full, they start getting smashed and creased, and then you can't use them. So I'd rather just make a bunch of loops. And I know some people just cut a bunch of 6-inch pieces and then store them in containers like that, and then you can make loops or whatever you need later on, and you already have them pre-cut. So whatever works best for you. I'm going to trim all that off. You see right there in the white in the middle there was a mess, so I'm pretty sure that's where I restarted it. So I did something wrong there. I may have started with the wrong ribbon, I'm not sure. Look how pretty that, I love that back. Oh, right there, that has happened to me before when I layer ribbons. One of them didn't get braided, and so it popped out, but it's a very easy fix. You can just hot glue that back in there. I'm trying to shove it in there to show you that once you glue it, you can't even tell. I've had that happen a couple of times, maybe once or twice, And it always happens when I'm layering those military braids. One ribbon didn't get put back in the loop or something. I just think that looks so pretty. But I mean, it's a very wide braid, so you can only use this on bigger mums. It would look silly on like a mini mum or something. See, you can twist them and stuff. Some of them twist better than others. It just depends. So I've already added some glue in there, and I'm adding just a little bit more. My hot glue gun wasn't very warm, so it wasn't cooperating very well. You just want to press that in there, and then you won't even be able to tell, so it's no big deal. Just want to make sure it's in there good though, so it doesn't pop back out. Now for that center piece, you can see I didn't crisscross it right there, so I'm betting that I started with the wrong side. And what was it, about 29 inches, I believe. Okay, so I just took some of that scrap acetate and made a ring right there, and then I ended up making two of them because it needed two around those white pieces. And I'm going to show you one more how I did it. So this is the second one I added. And you just want to glue it like a ring, and pretty snug. You don't want to leave it loose, or it won't look like the rest of them. I'm trying to push that one out of the way. And then it's going to look like it was braided correctly, like I didn't miss a little spot. And then I just turn it around so the seam is on the inside of the braid. And then, you know, after that, you couldn't even tell. If you hadn't known, you would have never seen it. Now I'm going to go ahead and bling up the front. I wasn't planning on doing that at the beginning, but then I decided, well, I'm going to add some bling. So I'm adding this flower diamond mesh, and then I decided to put it there right on the sides of that center. This will limit how I can use it in the future, because once I get this glued all the way down the length on both sides, you won't be able to move it and twist it and stuff like you would before. So more than likely I'll have to just attach it hanging long. I haven't really played with it to see if it'll bend and stuff, but I would bet that it won't bend, or won't bend easily. I could be wrong, but that usually stiffens the braids up, so keeps them from moving all around. But I thought it was really pretty. And I just glue like 4 or 5 at a time and pat them down, and then glue 4 or 5 more, and just do that for the whole length. And I get that bling on Amazon by the roll, 10-yard rolls. It is in my Amazon store if you're looking for some, and I have the rectangular in my Amazon store too, and probably some different colors of this diamond mesh by the roll, probably silver, gold. I'm pretty sure I have the black one in there too, and some different rolls of bling that I've purchased in the past. Most of the things you find in my Amazon store are things that I have actually purchased and tried. If they stop selling the one that I purchased, I'll try to find one similar and put in there. Just tap it down. You don't want to put too much glue and it have have it oozing out everywhere. Then of course you get glue strings. So again, I don't have a bunch of measurements for these braids. It was, like I said, 4 and 5 yards. Came up to 29-inch braid for me, so you can go from there. And then remember those center two, whichever ones are going to be those center two upside down V ribbons, cut them longer because you're going to run out of those first, or that's been my experience anyway. And I don't go all the way to the top. I go almost all the way to the top because that's going to be, that mess up there is going to be attached to the backer and hidden, so there's no sense in that. Look how pretty that is. And then I'm going to do the other side as well, and I'm going to speed that up. Tap, tap, tap. And I do leave one every now and then without any glue on it. So, like, I have to think about shipping. If this is on a mum and I have to ship it a lot of times, well, on most mums, I have to fold over the ribbons and braids on top of the mum to ship it and in the box. And so if I make a braid too stiff, it's not going to bend on me. It's not going to fold over. So if I leave one here and there without any glue, it'll allow for some movement and it won't be such a issue. I'll tell you, whip braids are the worst for shipping, and I love to put whip braids on my mums, but if you have to fold, they won't fold over. You kind of have to bend them kind of more like a U, just kind of give it some bend. It's like trying to bend a tree trunk in your box or something. It's crazy. Like I said, I'm not worried about the top really because most of that's going to be covered up. And there it is. I hope y'all enjoyed this video with the 3 different military braids in it. I just want to do a little shout out to my members, and this is the members I have as of July 20th. So if you renewed or got a membership after that date, I'm sorry you're not on there. That's when I videoed this and put that up there. So I want to thank all of my members, the contributors, the Crafty VIPs, and my Crafty buggers. I appreciate you all so much for being members. If you want to become a member, all you have to do is click join next to my channel name, and it will show you the different levels and what you get with those. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. If you're not subscribed, please do that. Don't forget to tap that bell for notifications on my uploads, live streams, and premieres. I upload new videos just about every Wednesday at 8:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. Click this link right here to subscribe to my channel. Here is my most recent upload. Here is a playlist. Here is a playlist I think you will enjoy, and here is one more video. I hope you like. Have a wonderful day.